When a Hollywood icon steps onto a late-night set, the natural expectation is respect. But what happens when the host chooses to poke fun at a legacy instead? That's exactly the crossroads Sylvester Stallone found himself at, facing not just casual questions, but a verbal sparring match. The night had all the signs of a routine talk show appearance. The lights dimmed, the crowd buzzed with anticipation. The band wrapped up its jazzy intro as Jimmy Kimmel strolled out wearing his trademark grin. "Tonight we've got a very special guest," Jimmy announced. "The man who turned mumbling into high art, the one and only Rocky Balboa, Mr. Sylvester Stallone." The studio erupted in applause as Stallone walked on stage, still carrying a magnetic presence after decades in the spotlight. Wearing a sharp black blazer over a dark maroon shirt, he waved to the audience and settled into the chair beside Jimmy with a polite smile. "Good to be here," Stallone said, his gravelly voice instantly recognizable. "Great to have you, Sly," Jimmy replied, leaning forward. "I was told you'd be bringing wisdom, experience, a few garbled syllables, and maybe even a protein shake." The audience chuckled. Stallone gave a small laugh too, but his eyes tightened ever so slightly. "Left the shake backstage," he said. "Didn't want to outshine your green juice?" Jimmy smirked. "Touché. So let's talk about the new movie. Another action flick? Or did you finally decide to try something with, I don't know, a plot?" Stallone kept his face calm. "It's a story of redemption, a veteran facing the ghosts of his past, something that taps into real-world pain." "Deep," Jimmy said with exaggerated awe. "And here I thought it was just another excuse to flex those arms on camera." The crowd laughed lightly. Stallone didn't. "Sometimes pain needs muscle," he said evenly. "Not to show off, but to carry the weight." The energy shifted. Jimmy raised his brows, amused. "Poetic. Did Rambo teach you that, or was it Rocky?" "Funny," Stallone replied. "I always thought comedy was supposed to punch up, not down." The jab landed. Jimmy blinked, then forced a grin. "Just kidding around. Don't body slam me on live TV." "Don't worry," Stallone said. "I only hit when it's scripted." The tension was thick enough for the audience to feel. What started as banter was beginning to turn into something sharper. Jimmy tried steering the conversation lighter. "Okay, let's rewind. The first Rocky. You wrote it in 3 days, right? Did you just run out of crayons?" A ripple of discomfort passed through the crowd. Stallone paused. "I wrote it with everything I had," he said slowly. "Sleeping in bus terminals, trying to sell my dog to survive. Crayons weren't exactly the priority." Silence filled the room. "Sometimes," Stallone added, leaning forward, "you tell a joke. Sometimes you break dignity. Be careful which one you're breaking tonight." The gloves were off. The audience leaned in as the duel of words escalated. Jimmy smiled, but tighter now. "You know, Sly, that comeback almost made sense. Maybe you should try stand-up. And maybe you should try sincerity," Stallone shot back. "Might surprise your viewers." A loud ooh rolled through the studio. Jimmy, relishing the tension, pressed further. "Let's be real. You've made more sequels than Hollywood has new ideas. Ever think about just letting it go?" Stallone crossed his legs deliberately. "I keep telling stories people want to hear. Maybe that bothers you." Jimmy chuckled dryly. "Or maybe it's just that you keep playing the same guy with a different haircut." "Better than being a new haircut with the same jokes," Stallone fired back. The audience roared. Jimmy clenched his jaw. "But seriously, don't you worry people only see you as a punchline?" "Only when hosts try to write the joke," Stallone said firmly. "Rocky wasn't just a film. It was hope for people who had none." This time the applause wasn't polite. It was heartfelt. Jimmy shifted gears. "But you're a millionaire now. Isn't it a little rich talking about struggle?" "Struggle doesn't vanish with a paycheck," Stallone replied, voice low. "It leaves scars, and it teaches you to notice when someone's using you for laughs." Jimmy hesitated, caught off guard. "So you think I'm using you?" "You tell me." The air was thick, the audience silent. For the first time, Jimmy seemed rattled. He forced a laugh. "Didn't know we booked a philosopher tonight." "Funny," Stallone said smoothly. "I thought we booked a host." The crowd erupted again. Jimmy's smile faltered. He tried once more. "How do you answer critics who say your career now is just nostalgia? That without the past you don't have much of a present?" "Critics talk," Stallone said coldly. "Legends work. I don't need to relive the past. I built it." Thunderous applause shook the room. Jimmy leaned in, one last attempt. "Come on, Sly, can't you take a joke?" Stallone's smile faded. "Can you take the truth?" The silence that followed swallowed the stage whole. Jimmy turned to the camera with a strained grin. "We'll be right back, assuming Stallone doesn't hit me before the break." But everyone knew the break wasn't the only thing looming. It was a battle line drawn, and far from finished. When jokes start cutting deeper than intended, even the toughest feel the burn. But Stallone didn't waver. He answered with the weight of someone who's spent a lifetime fighting to be heard. The commercial break ended, lights snapped back, and Jimmy Kimmel straightened his jacket, his grin back in place. "We're here with the one and only Sylvester Stallone," he announced. Voice lessons, action figures. What is it now, an 80-something superhero doll? The crowd laughed, but Stallone stayed still. Better to be carved from stone than molded from plastic, Jimmy. The applause was stronger this time. A shift rippled through the studio, and Jimmy noticed. Well, your fans are something else, Jimmy said, forcing a light tone. Almost too loyal, like they still think you're that scrappy kid from Philly. I am, Stallone replied calmly, just wearing better shoes now. Jimmy scoffed. Come on, Sly. Haven't we outgrown the underdog act? Time to hang up the gloves, literally and figuratively. Stallone's gaze locked on him. Would you tell a soldier to toss his boots just because the war makes you uncomfortable? Jimmy blinked, the air suddenly heavier. I don't think making Rocky IX counts as war. It does, Stallone said. When you're fighting cynicism, apathy, and the belief that someone like me can't still inspire. The crowd erupted in applause. So, Jimmy tried again, you're saying it's not ego, it's mission? No, Stallone replied. It's responsibility. To remind people you don't stop because others say you should. You stop when you decide. Jimmy nodded quickly. Powerful words. Spoken like a man promoting a ticket sale. Stallone's eyes hardened. You keep turning this into a joke. Maybe because you're afraid someone might actually take me seriously. The audience roared. Jimmy leaned back, visibly shaken. You know what worries me, Sly? He asked, forcing calm. That people think your movie persona is the real you. That Rocky exists. Stallone leaned forward. Rocky is real. Not just because I wrote him, but because millions of people saw themselves in him. He's a reflection, Jimmy. Something you clearly avoid. The silence that followed was electric. There's always a breaking point, and when Stallone stood, the entire studio leaned in. Jimmy forced a smirk. So what's next, Sly? Anti-aging supplements? A reality series? Keeping up with the comebacks? The chuckles that followed were thinner now, uncertain. The moment had shifted. Stallone exhaled. You hide behind jokes like armor. But eventually, the punchlines stop being clever and start being noise. It's just TV, man, Jimmy shrugged. Maybe that's the problem, Stallone replied, his voice low. You treat every story as a gag, even when the person sitting here has something real to share. The audience went still. Jimmy laughed nervously. Don't take it so seriously, Sly. You've taken real hits. You can handle words. Stallone rose to his feet, calm, deliberate. The crowd gasped. I've taken enough, he said. And I've given enough to this industry, to audiences, to the spirit of real storytelling. Jimmy scrambled, standing too. Hey, where are you going? We're not done. But I am, Stallone answered. The studio erupted into applause, not shock, but solidarity. Jimmy tried to cover. Don't worry, folks. Next week we'll bring someone with a sense of humor. Stallone paused at the edge of the stage. Next week, try bringing someone with a soul. He walked off, but before vanishing backstage, he turned once more. His eyes scanned the room. Decades of battles and comebacks etched in his stare. I've spent a lifetime creating characters who fought for something. Maybe it's time late-night TV did the same? The cameras tried to follow, but the feed cut back to Jimmy, blinking, searching for words. Backstage, crew members applauded quietly. A few nodded. One young intern whispered, "Thank you." Online, the moment exploded. Hashtags like "Done Respect Stallone" and "Late Night Clash" trended worldwide. Memes spread like wildfire. Stallone standing tall captioned, "Strength isn't loud, it's dignified." Clips replayed endlessly on news networks. Pundits debated. Fellow actors, directors, even athletes voiced support. Stallone hadn't just left a studio, he had stepped into history. What began as another routine late-night interview became something raw, something real. A clash that wasn't just about egos, but about values. Stallone didn't storm off in anger. He walked away with dignity. And everyone watching knew they'd witnessed more than television. They'd witnessed a moment of truth. Who crossed the line? Who came out on top? Tell us in the comments. And for more behind-the-scenes stories the world can't stop talking about, subscribe now. This wasn't just late night. It was a turning point.